So, John, what do you see as sort of the biggest challenges being faced by CDOs, currently, these days?
I've had that question asked of me many times, and I always think of it in terms of, I'll say, good challenges and bad challenges.
Hmm.
Right? The good challenges is the scope of responsibility of the CDO growing, which is a good thing, but it's still a challenge. Right? Um, we perform industry surveys, the EDM Council, over the past 6-7 years, and one of the things we saw was an expansion of the responsibility of the CDO to take on things like data ethics and data analytics, not writing the code, but having that senior executive responsibility for that. Well, the more you expand the role of the CDO, obviously, the more challenging the role becomes. So that's a good thing. As businesses change, new use cases are being introduced. How do you formulate a response to a new use case to always bring value to your organization? Again, a good challenge, but nonetheless a challenge. The bad challenge is, and I see this happen often, is not managing expectations.
Mm.
So almost a corollary to what I just spoke about. Oh, good, you're the CDO. He or she now has all of this responsibility, solve every problem I have
Right.
in the organization. And admittedly, I made that mistake myself. I sometimes didn't know how to say no. You try to take on and absorb all of these challenges, and then it becomes very difficult. So being able to take on those challenges, find those partners, like I said, those stewards and the people around you, bring in those smart people to get it done. It's absolutely necessary. Well, you will kind of collapse under your own weight with the challenges that you face, and then if you can't live up to those expectations, there is legitimately some history there over the past decade or so where, we've heard this story before. You're going to, solve all my problems, and so that's always out there. Also, avoid that by taking the small bites, solving the problems. Don't take on the world, but have the vision on how it can be done, and then manage those expectations.
Got it. What about looking forward in the next few years? Do you foresee any new challenges or other areas where CDOs should be aware coming up in the future?
Yeah, as I kind of alluded to, I think the ethical use of information is going to be one of the biggest challenges. And just to go outside of like the finance industry or look at other industries, look at the automotive industry. The amount of data that's collected in your late model car, it's phenomenal. Most people are probably not aware that a late model car is generating over a terabyte of data to the cloud every single day. And it's not just the typical your GPS and where you are. There's thousands of sensors on an automobile. It's tracking your speed, your turning radius, turning speed, how close I am to the next car. I was told by an executive at General Motors that in an accident, they could tell where your hands were on the wheel and where your eyes were looking.
Wow.
Right? Now, from a safety perspective, that's amazing, right? You could really analyze an accident, try to improve it. From a privacy perspective, very challenging. So the CDO is going to be faced with that yin and yang constantly of all of this data coming from these IoT devices. How do you properly manage that information? We are, and a big catalyst in this, of course, was the virus, which we just went through, was the move towards digitization. Right? We do everything online right now. Probably 2 years ago, I would have been sitting across a studio from you right now doing an interview instead of being on Zoom, right? But all of our transactions are online, right? I mean, we can hardly even buy, supermarket food. It's online, and all of that information is in the cloud. So the council actually just facilitated a major activity we're going to be publishing next month, a cloud data management best practice, working with all of the big cloud providers, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, IBM, Snowflake, Some of the key banks, Morgan Stanley was one of the key participants in this, along with many of the others, because everybody's recognizing that this information is moving to cloud. You may ask, well, what's different between that and on-prem? From a purist perspective, you should be doing data management the same way anyway. However, cloud enables greater access, much broader, reach of information. And again, more information is there that could be at risk if it's, compromised, right? So how do we build these cloud environments responsibly? How do we ensure that there's accountability and the data is being used properly? So these responsibilities are going to fall to the chief data officer. Again, I think it's great. I think the role continues to grow, and the accountability of that individual is going to continue to strengthen. But boy, there's a lot coming down the pipe, right? In terms of and it's exciting, right? As AI continues to be adopted, it's going to create opportunity and challenge. So I'd say there's no shortage of work to do for the, a colleague of mine used to call it CDO 1 and CDO 2. I think I was CDO beta when it first started. Now I think they're just saying CDO X, right? Because we don't know what the next generation of CDOs are. But I think it's an exciting field. Anybody who's in the data management space right now, I think they're in a great, exciting discipline, and it'll just continue to grow. And no good thing happens without some challenge, right? So comes hand in hand.
Well, John, thank you so much. We look forward to reading the report, and I definitely will think definitely very closely as I drive my car next about how much data just my own vehicle is collecting on me. Thank you, John, for joining me today. And thank you also to CDO Magazine. If you're interested in any additional interviews, please visit cdomagazine.tech.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. Thanks for having me.